Mm, nothing like a big cup of coffee in the morning. Well, as long as you have a good night's sleep. Well, you know, everyone's routine in the morning is a little different. Everyone's routine during the day is a little different. So today's episode of Pathways to Physical and Emotional Wellness is about building routines that support you. So we have a great guest today for that. But before we get into that content, another cup of coffee. Mm. And a big thank you to our sponsors. In fact, we have a great message from Pfizer. Big thank you to Pfizer, HFA, and CVS. Let's take a listen to that message from Pfizer. All right? And today we are talking about building a supportive routine. And we are very lucky to have Eileen San Juan back with us. So I'm going to bring Eileen in. Eileen, welcome, welcome. It is so good to see you back again.
Hello, Jeremy and everyone. Thank you. Thank you for having me yet again.
You're welcome. And no, it's great. Last time we spoke, we were talking a little bit about, ways of preventing injuries and recovering from injuries. And I thought maybe today we could dive in a little bit more on like a supportive routine. You were
Yeah.
touching on it before. And I know last time we also spoke about potentially going through some exercises of balance and kind of like posture and things like that too. So let me hand it over to you.
Okay. So the guideline I normally use is also put out by the CDC. You'll also see it in American College of Sports Medicine. For healthy adults, we want to make sure we're trying to do at least 30 minutes a day of 5 days a week of what's called cardiovascular exercises. So what that means, and again, I'm going to say this with just a caveat that, we want to also talk to our medical professionals to make sure that this is, a program that would be right for us. It would include something like walking, pedaling with a peddler, like under desk peddler, or using a bike outside, a bicycle outside. Um, those are some things that we could do as a routine. If there's nothing else that you can do, just even walking indoors. And you don't have to start off, obviously, 30 minutes, the first time that you're doing such an activity. Obviously, if you're somebody who hasn't been exercising regularly, and I'll include myself in that category, I should practice more what I preach, and I will. That's a promise to all of you, is that you want to start off slow. And again, if you talk to your physical therapist at this, at the treatment center, or your primary doctor, your orthopedist, they can tell you how much, to gradually increase, your exercise level. Those of you who do swimming, who can, that's also great exercise, but you want to make sure that you're trying to do some sort of continuous exercise, 30 minutes a day, 5 days. Now, people will tell me, well, I walk all day long at work, does that count? So yes and no. Yes, you're working, or you're doing that repeated activity, throughout the day at work. But what they mean by 30 minutes of cardiovascular exercise is something that raises, um, uh, safely, your heart rate within that period of time, for a full, 30 minutes. And again, like I said, we can gradually work our way up to that. The other thing you want to add, in terms of a routine, is strengthening exercises, increasing your muscle strength, um, throughout your body. And how do we do that? We want to make sure that we're, again, doing the proper exercises. There are specific exercises you can do for, every muscle, right? You're and at the joints that we usually give people exercises for, the elbows, the shoulders, the hips, the knees, the ankles. Um, you know, we can give you the proper exercises for you. That should be 2 days a week at least. You're doing some sort of muscle strengthening exercise. You also want to add a stretching routine. Yoga, for those of us that can do it and can do it safely, is great exercise. But even doing stretching, you know um, specifically to muscles that we already know are tight, but also just a general stretching exercise for your body, is great. Pilates, but again, these are all things that you want to make sure that you check in with your medical professionals first, to make sure that it's right for you. Uh, Usually you want to add about 2 to 3 days of a stretching exercise, and throughout the week and throughout the day. Also, we talked about balance and posture. The easiest fix that you can do, right off the bat, is when you're sitting, are you sitting up straight? I wasn't. Obviously I'm able to do it. So, that drop your shoulders down. Make sure that if you're, at a job where you're at, a desk and in front of a computer all day long, that, uh, it is at the proper height that it should, the computer is at the proper height it should be, so that you're not straining at your neck and shoulders and head. And then also that you're lined up with your monitor properly. That's a quick fix that you can do before anything else. And you'll notice that a lot of those aches and pains should decrease, just from not being in that same position 7.5, 8 hours a day, right? But that's definitely something. Those are some of the things that I talk about with people in terms of putting together a routine.
That's great. So one of the things you had shared with me, a really nice resource. Was it the CDC that had sent that out?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pull it up because I think that it had. We'll go ahead and send the link out later, but this way folks can kind of see that there are tons of resources out there. But this
Mhm.
one was put together by the CDC. Why do you like this resource?
this is a very general resource. It does tell us you ideally, it goes by age group, what type of proper activity for your age group in healthy individuals. And what does that mean necessarily? That's why I say, you want to acquiesce to your health care professionals, to your hematologist, your treatment center nurses, physical therapists, your primary doctor, to see if these things are right for you.
Well, that's great. Yeah, so we'll send that link out to everybody so they can get a sense of it.
Mhm.
I did want to just ask you from a routine standpoint because it is easy to fall off the beam. It's easy to fall off the wagon of like, or let's even go back. Like maybe I'm super sedentary and it's hard to even begin to think about a routine yet.
Mhm.
So where do you start? What's the easiest like way to get that first foot moving?
Okay, sit up straight. I guess that is number one. You're if if you're sedentary, there might be reasons why. Okay, that would be where I would say to start is find out why are you sedentary? Are you sedentary because you're in pain? Then obviously, then you should talk to your medical professionals to try to decrease that pain, whatever that might be. Okay, is it because you're always tired? You know, that's so there's so many factors involved in, I always feel tired, I don't feel like doing anything. I know I feel that way too. Are you lacking something in terms of your vitamins and minerals that you get during the day? Is it a medical condition that you already have that's causing you to be that way? That's, I think, where you start, and find out what are the causes of you feeling like you're symptom. If you're wheelchair bound, okay, if you're wheelchair bound, it doesn't mean that just because you're wheelchair bound you can't move, or that, oh, I'm not even going to bother. There are ways to start having a program of movement and exercise even when you're seated, right? And again, like I said, those are things that we can talk about at the treatment center, or that you could talk about with your primary doctor. How can you improve that? If you have arthritis, and I include myself in that category, whether it's because of bleeding into a target joint when you were younger, and now you've developed arthritis, arthropathy in that area. But for me, even just having arthritis in my knees and my hip, just from the type of work that I do, what the worst thing you can do when you have arthritic joints or inflammation in that area is to not move at all. Okay, gone are the days that you were stiff, you had arthritis. Okay, well, you're going to be bed bound, or you're going to be just seated, and that's all you're going to do. There are ways that you can start that exercise program. If you're home, if it's safe for you to be walking, one way you can start is just walking in the hallway and then measuring. I'll tell you what I do, and I'll tell you what I've told my mother to do. Okay, so I I went to the hardware store, got myself a measuring wheel, and actually measured how far it is from one end of the house to the other. Okay, and in that, I look wherever it is that is a comfortable amount of walking space for me, whether it's 50 feet, 100 feet, 150 feet. I'll try to do that every day. Okay. And then gradually, if that's easy, increase the amount that I'm walking a day, even if it's just indoors, because some of us cannot get outside, whether it's because of the weather coming up as it gets colder, we can't do that, or it's because, of we're just afraid, or there might be some medical condition where we just need to be on level ground where, our balance is not that great. There's ways that you can work around it and find out, hey, listen, today I walked 100 feet just walking back and forth in the house. That gets easier week to week. Then I'm going to add another, 25 feet to that, and another 50 feet. And even if it's just like, indoors doing that. At work, I would do the same thing, and I have done the same thing where on my break, I'll just, I'll do a walk. And if I have, no, okay, fine. If you have maybe a 30-minute break, it's not enough time to do that 30-minute of that exercise that I said to do. Well, as much as you can. Okay. Something is better than nothing.
Yeah. I mean, and like I would think with nowadays with all the devices that people have, I mean, one, you don't need the device. You can just go, hey, I'm gonna go walk around the block. You don't need it. But
Mhm.
with iWatches or your phone or whatever, they can track your
Mhm.
steps and could just like kind
Mhm.
of almost like play a little game with yourself, I guess, in
Mhm.
a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing too is, one of the common questions we ask when somebody comes to clinic is, um, if you had to walk, street blocks, how many street blocks can you walk? And a lot of people look at me like, I don't have, like, I don't live in New York City. I don't know how many blocks I can walk. And, so estimate for yourself, well, hey, listen, especially in my language, like, I can walk, I don't know, from my bedroom to my bathroom, about, if I went back and forth, I could do it about 5 times. And then I say to myself, well, that's about 30 feet times five, then I see, I can figure out how much you walked, and then you can just keep increasing that amount day to day.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it seems like just like almost setting goals for yourself, and then
Mhm.
like kind of like tracking it in a way. That's part of that
Mhm.
sort of like and
Yeah.
that routine, whatever it is, doesn't have to be I'm going to run a mile every day. It doesn't
No,
have to be that. It doesn't
no.
have to be I'm going to do 30 minutes of exercise where my heart's really like I mean, there are some recommendations, but it's almost
Yeah,
really personal to you about like
it
what's
is.
doable for you and how you push it just a little bit within a safe
Mhm.
zone kind of deal.
Mhm. The other thing too is, even doing, I've taught people how to do just seated at their couch or their chair, um, while they're watching even a program on TV, even doing leg kicks, right? Throughout doing,
What? So
uh,
what explain this to me. So I'm seated here. What would I do? Leg kick. What do you mean?
straighten your knee, kick
Okay.
your leg out,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then bring your toes toward you.
Oh yeah, I can feel it. I can
You
feel it
feel it? You feel that
all the
stretch?
way up my leg when I do
Right,
that.
all the way up your leg.
Yep.
And you're giving yourself a little stretch as you're doing that. Doing anywhere between 8 to 20 repetitions of that, right? Again, what is comfortable and what doesn't bring on pain as you're doing it. Okay, we always try to exercise, or at least start off exercises in the pain-free range. Okay.
Well,
It,
because my joints were a little dusty right then, my left knee when I did that popped really nicely whenever I did it. So I don't know if it was just not working right, but
mhm.
it got better
That's
after the second or third.
Yeah, and that's a thing too. So again, we were talking about, arthritis, arthritic joints, and I chuckle because I have them, right? And sometimes those first 2 or 3 repetitions might be a little bit stiff, and then as you loosen up, then you're able to do more. So don't get scared by, oh, I tried that, oh, now it's not really working for me, I'm too stiff to do that. You might try a few repetitions, and then it loosens up, and then you're able to do it. And again, we want to do that in the pain free range. Also, the other thing too is, if it's something that, I also try to, you know try to tell people, you might be a little sore after an exercise. It's, anywhere between the next day to a couple days in those muscles that you work. But if you think that that soreness is not normal, definitely reach out to, your center, your hematologist, your doctor, and just make sure that that's not something that, is a cause for concern. Okay. um, it, normal normal new exercises may cause a little bit of muscle soreness after, but it shouldn't be a huge increase of pain that causes you to not be able to move afterwards.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there, I mean, from a routine standpoint, so many of us, like you said, we've been talking about like, you know, placing your computer at the right spot, getting your monitor at the right spot, all these things that would be very helpful, but very few of us do. Um, are there a set of like easy, like seated stretches that people can do? You know, you think about
Yeah,
your wrist, you think about your shoulders and things like
yeah.
that people could do like on a daily basis. What would that look like?
Yes. So I, I show people just a very, very gentle elbow exercise. So even just extending your elbow out,
Yeah,
right? And then pulling your hand toward you.
right.
So straightening, your elbow that way. Okay. And again, you might want to feel the pull, but you do not want to feel pain. Okay.
Ooh, okay,
You don't want to feel pain. Stretch it until you feel a little bit of a pull, a
right.
gentle pull, and that's it. Okay.
Okay,
If you're already limited in the motion in your elbow or your joint, and that's as far as you can go, that's okay. You're still stretching it, right at that range that is comfortable for you. Don't try to, if you've had, the bend in your elbow, your knee, your hip for many, many, many years, don't try to stretch it out, straight and hurt yourself as well. That's not safe, first of all, but it's also not good in terms of causing you stress, possibly more bleeding into the area, scar tissue to develop in that area. We don't want that. Okay. The other thing is postural exercises. Oh, let me just, can you see me?
yeah, I
Okay.
can see you.
So even just bringing the shoulders back.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the elbows back too, is that what you're doing?
A little bit. Yes. Mhm.
Okay,
So bringing your shoulder blades together as an exercise,
yeah,
right? Anywhere that I'm seated, if I'm on the computer a long, period of time, you might want to do that as a stretch. If you want to stretch in that position, you want to hold that position for anywhere between 10 to 30 seconds. And
okay,
again, if you've never done it before, don't try to hold to 30, just even a few seconds, and then work your way up to holding it for a 30-second hold, and do it anywhere between 2 to 4 repetitions.
okay, yeah.
Okay.
And you can feel
Uh,
that all the way down the sides of that, the back of the
mhm,
shoulders, you know.
mhm. In our legs, I also, I also try to teach people to do a hamstring stretch. Do not try to do what I'm doing if it's too much for you, or it hurts you to, try to do this. Shall I turn on the light for us so you
You're
can see a
fine.
little bit better?
Yeah, if you want to, sure. That sounds great.
Okay. Okay.
Look at this. We're getting our own
Hey,
little session. This is awesome.
okay. So I'm going to show you what I do. Um, if you're if you are reclined
Yeah,
and have, another, maybe a stool in front of you, you can see my knee here, right? Try to straighten your knee. Even just doing that,
yeah.
even having, your knee straight, is actually stretching your hamstrings. Okay. And then carefully, just bend forward just a little bit until you feel that pull.
Where else should that be pulling? Even the lower back almost too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh. And then you want to make sure that you're doing it, like I said, safely. So if you're feeling more than a pull or pain,
Yeah.
stop. Just when you feel that gentle pull, hold it there. And again, 10 to 30 seconds, right? Hold it there. And then um, a couple times, up to 3 or 4 times, you can do. Okay. If you want to add a little more to it, gonna see my foot.
Oh yeah,
So you can bring your foot toward you,
right.
give your a little calf stretch as well. I don't know, I know I'm not too clear now.
No, but you're curling your toes that way.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't have to curl your toes. You just want to bend at your ankle,
Yeah.
okay? And then give yourself a calf stretch.
Yeah,
Okay?
it's amazing how, I mean, I always kind of think like, well, if I was going to get into some routine, I need to go buy some equipment or I need to go get some weights or something like that. But there's so much you can do just with your own body, it seems like.
Yes. And there's it's very important. Stretching is very important as part of a conditioning exercise program. And like I said, what I think the mistake that we all tend to make, and again myself included, is that when we do stretching, we want so badly to get that movement and we get that range that I think we overdo it and we may actually overstretch. You don't want to do that. The moment you feel that pull, leave it right there and keep that stretch for, again, 10 to 30 seconds and then stop and then do it 2 or 3 times. Don't try to push your motion into a motion that's pain, thinking that, hey, I'm going to do a better stretch because I'm actually pushing myself. That can actually cause other issues to happen. What remember, we're stretching to extend that muscle, lengthen that, the soft tissue around it. But what happens is if you overdo it, our body is going to actually have a reflex that tightens you, and so it will actually do the opposite. So you don't want to overstretch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, like it kind of goes back to what you were saying at the beginning. It's about setting some goals for yourself. There's some recommendations out there for this type of routine, and finding that right balance. It seems like for what's right for you.
Mhm.
Any other like final words or recommendations on building a supportive routine that you want to have people take away out of this conversation?
Again, I think seek the advice of a medical professional. The physical therapist at your center is probably the the most skilled at finding a specific exercise for you. So we talked a little bit about posture and the elbow and the knee and the ankle, but they can look at you in terms of where your joints or your muscles are health wise now, and then give you a specific exercise program for each of those joints and muscles.
That's great. That's great. Well, everybody, you have an assignment. Go talk to your physical therapist at the HTC. Find out what your routine should be. Hopefully, you can go to see Eileen. Eileen, you'll be there?
Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this again. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you again soon.
Thanks again, Jeremy, for everything. And thanks for everything you do for everyone.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.